If you guys haven't been to something before, one of the things that we love to do, one of the things that we love having happen is there are people in this room. Some of you guys know them. Some of you guys are in small groups with them. Some of you guys have known them for years. Some of you guys go to school with them. There's also a lot of people in here you probably don't know that you haven't gotten a chance to get to know. And we want this to be a spot where we get to know who people are. All of us here are on a journey trying to figure out what life looks like, the best way to do it. If there's one thing I know about every single one of you is all of us are trying to do life the very best that we can. And none of us have that fully figured out at all. But one of the things that I think helps us navigate life is the stories that we can all share with each other. And so what we ask people to do is we ask people to come up here and to share a little bit of their own story, to share a part of their story and what has shaped them and what has grown them, the things in their lives that have really mattered. And this year, one of the things we've really enjoyed doing is we've had some of our leaders come up here, but every couple of weeks we ask one of our seniors to come up and talk about what their experience has been thus far. They are people that have most recently walked through high school, tried to figure it out. They haven't done it all perfectly, but they figured some things out along the way. And so tonight, we get to hear from one of our seniors. She's going to share a little bit of her story. It's not the whole story because there's not enough time for that. And guys, she shares that story because if there's anything that you hear, if there's anything you're going, hey, I'd love to hear the rest of that story, please ask. Please, she would love to be able to tell you more about what's going on here. But I don't want to take any much more of her time. Will you guys give a big summit welcome, make her feel at home here, to our friend Macy K. Come on up. Do you want to sit there?
That's okay.
Whatever you want. Make yourself
Okay.
comfortable.
Hi. I'm Macy Kate, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story. So, as a kid, my family moved around a lot because of my dad's job, and we never really went to church consistently. Then the summer before I started high school, we were moved here. I wasn't super excited to start over again and was not looking forward to going into high school not knowing anyone. One day, my mom asked, why don't we start going to church again? And that's when we found Ascent and I discovered Summit. I was pumped because this seemed like a great opportunity to make some friends. I came all throughout my freshman year, but to be honest, I was really just coming for the friends and the free food. I also joined a rock climbing team and started climbing competitively. I got a job, made some friends, and I honestly thought I was doing great. But what came next was something that I never really could have seen coming. It was July 15th, 2018, and it was a beautiful Sunday morning, and my parents and I were on our way to Ascent. My dad was driving, my mom in the passenger seat. I was sitting in the back, and the three of us were jamming out to the radio. My dad was yielding for a cyclist and waiting to turn left. I noticed my shoe was untied, so I bent down to tie it. Suddenly, I hear my dad softly say, "Please, no," and my mom cry out in fear. The next thing I know, tires are screeching, and the sound of airbags exploding rang out like gunshots. A man coming the other direction while traveling 40 miles an hour over the speed limit T-boned us. Our car looked like a soda can that had been stepped on. When I finally came to, I heard the faint sobs of onlookers, all the while paramedics were working to cut me out of the car while pleading with me to stay with them. They kept saying things like, "Stay with us," and "Come on, you've got this." But the simple act of staying conscious seemed impossible, and letting go seemed so easy. But then I heard something telling me that it wasn't quite my time, and I just had to hold on a little bit longer. So I did, and I fought harder than I ever have before. Eventually, I woke up again, this time in the hospital. I had sustained immense injuries from the accident. I hurt my neck, my back, the list goes on. But the most notable injury was my traumatic brain injury. This caused me to lose my memory, my sense of smell, complete speech, balance, and more. I would look in the mirror and I wouldn't recognize the girl staring back at me. I would try to talk, but nothing came out, and even walking was something that took months to work towards. For a long time, my days consisted only of hospitals, rehab, and pain. Before the accident, like I said, I was always busy, but my situation caused all of the activities I thought I needed to be happy to be stripped away from me, much like many of us are going through right now with COVID. After several months, my doctors finally agreed to let me start going to one outing a week, and that outing was Summit. So I started going again, and it was the highlight of my week. At first, it was just a way for me to escape what I was going through, and the friends and the free food definitely helped. But after a while, I started looking forward to the talks and the worship. I then decided that I wanted to pursue a relationship with God and give my life to Him. And it was the best decision I've ever made. I definitely don't have everything figured out, and I have a long road of recovery and health struggles in front of me. But that's okay, because I learned that sometimes preparation can come packaged as pain, and He won't ever give you pain without a purpose. Everything I thought I needed was only me trying to fill a hole that only Jesus can. Even if everything is taken away from you, He can sustain you and show you that He is enough. For so long, I thought this future that I had handcrafted had gone out of the window, and I was mad. I was mad at my situation and tired of being in pain. But now, the future that I thought I wanted is the last thing I want. I learned that He won't ever shut a door without opening a much greater one. Thank you.
Thanks, Macy. Yeah, I get it. Thank you, Macy Kate, for sharing your story. Thanks for being vulnerable and letting us in with that. It's one of the things that I absolutely love about getting to hear people's stories is you realize that, man, people are going through all kinds of different stuff. Some of you might have expected, some of you might not have. And I mean, that's a big deal to come up here and share something that I know is really vulnerable, it was a traumatic part of your life. So thanks for just inviting us into that and letting us know that. That's a storm that I don't think that Macy Kay would have ever expected to happen in her life. And all of us in some ways are trying to figure out storms. Maybe it's something that's similar to her. Maybe it's something that's nothing like that. But hearing a story like that, that's powerful. Some of you guys know I didn't grow up knowing anything about faith, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But when I started hearing that, for some reason, this guy God meant something to people that had experienced incredible hardship or anything like that, it made me want to lean in more. And like I said, Macy Kate, she gave you a snapshot of what she's experienced over the last couple of years. If you want to know more about that, please ask her. She'd love to share more of that with you. But it's funny. We don't like script these things. We don't plan this stuff. And then it's always sort of surprising to me when whoever's up here sharing ends up talking about kind of exactly what it is that I want to sort of dive in tonight about. Because what I want to talk about tonight is when we find ourselves in storms, when life brings a storm that we were not expecting. And what do we do when we're sitting in the middle of that storm? It's that, when you're sitting there going, how do I navigate my way out of this? How did I get to this spot? Where do I go from here? What do I do in this moment? I think the reality is, and many of you guys would say, we already know this, life's going to bring us storms. We are going to find ourselves in the midst of storms, and what do we do with that? So that's kind of what we're going to spend the next couple of weeks diving into a little bit around it. And the first question I kind of want to ask you guys to just be thinking about is what would you say right now? How many of you would say that you feel like you are in a storm? You don't have to raise your hand, but how many of you guys would say in your life there is a storm going on? Maybe it's something, when I say storm, maybe that's when you look at something that's going on in your life, there are dark clouds up ahead and you're going, woof, I am not sure what's coming up in here, but this looks ominous. This looks scary. Maybe some of you guys, what a storm means is that a fog has rolled in, or it's like a whiteout blizzard, and you don't know what direction you're going. You don't know where you're supposed to turn. You don't know if you're on the right track anymore, and you feel completely lost. Maybe the storm in your life is friend drama or problems going on with a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever it is, and it is thundering around you. And it feels like, oh my gosh, I just want out of this. This is not what I expected to happen. Maybe for some of you guys, it's just the storm is just decisions that you have to make. What am I going to do next year? What about your college next year? What classes am I going to take? Are we going to be back in school normally? What are the decisions that are going? I don't know. I hope I make the right decision. If I make the wrong one, what are the consequences with that? Some of you guys, a storm might be the fact that so much time with your family, it feels like your family's imploding. Or maybe it feels like your family's exploding. Maybe the storm is just because you feel like I have no control over what goes on in my life now. I feel like I'm getting tossed by waves. I feel like the wind is blowing me in all kinds of directions, and I just feel out of control right now. I used to have a handle on things, and now I feel out of control. Or maybe the storm is just the fact that you feel like, I just feel like we're off course here. I feel like that I'm not where I thought I would be. I didn't think this is what my sophomore year would look like. Or I didn't think this is what who I turned out to be would look like. You know, we started this, when we started this summit back this semester, we talked about that if you were here, Katie came up and we talked about, it's a new year, it's 2021, 2020 is behind us, and who do we want to be? What story do we want to write? What resolutions are we setting? What goals do we have? And, that got me fired up, and a couple weeks after that, Molly came up and she talked about that God has a race for us, that we are running, that we are trying to do our very best to win and to do as well as we can and run that race. And I don't know, I got done with that, and I was like, yeah, I'm fired up and ready to go. And now I find myself, it's March, it's a quarter of the way through the year, and I don't feel that anymore. Honestly, I feel, I don't know, like I just sort of like, yeah, I was excited now, but now I just sort of feel like I just figure out what happens next. I don't feel enthusiastic. I don't feel like I'm moving. I feel like the goals that I was really excited about, or the version of me I wanted to be at the beginning of the year, is like, oh yeah, I was pumped up about that. Now, whatever. And I don't know if you guys feel like that too. I saw a meme the other day, and this messed with me. It said this. You throw stuff out there. I saw this one. It said, "Welcome to the 1-year anniversary of our 2-week lockdown." That is coming up, I think, next week. And man, it feels like it was just a couple weeks ago. Alec and a friend Ethan and I, we were sitting in Chick-fil-A, masks off, eating lunch like normal, and we were like, oh, this is so cool. We're going to have like super long spring break. You guys remember that? That was a year ago. And maybe for you guys it's going, gosh, even since this top of the year, I feel like I'm a little off course from where I was. Or if you think back to where you were a year ago, does it feel like somehow I've gotten a little off course from where I thought I was? Somehow I've drifted away from what I thought my life would look like, to who I thought I was going to be, the plans, the hopes that I had, whatever they are. I'm not quite there anymore. My storm is I'm just off course. Maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's dramatic. What I want to talk about that tonight. I actually want to look at a story in Scripture that talks about being in a storm and what do we do when we find ourselves there? How do we get there? How do we navigate our way out of that? But before we jump into that, I'll tell you my own story of actually physically getting off course, physically finding myself miles from where I was supposed to be. I don't know. Have any of you guys ever hiked Bear Peak? Anybody? It's in Boulder. Okay, if you don't know where Bear Peak is, I got married just about 8 years ago, and right before our wedding, I had a couple friends come into town from high school, and I decided I was going to take them on a hike to Bear Peak. Chautauqua sucks. We've all done it too many times. Bear Peak's the tallest point in Boulder. It's the set of mountains. If you're driving west, it's a set of mountains that are right to the left of the Flatirons, and it's a cool hike. It's hard to do. And so it's me and 2 other friends. First stupid mistake we did is the only water we brought with us was like one of those El Dorado Springs, like little bottles of water. Like, is that like 16 ounces or whatever? So we bring one water bottle with us for the 3 of us. We go on this hike, and I am very, very confident because I've done this like twice before. So you do the hike, and we get to, I remember we're hiking around, we get to this fork in the road. Some of you guys might know where this is. And there's a fork there, and one road goes downhill and one road goes uphill. And to me, I'm going, we're going up Bear Peak. It has to be uphill. So we take that route. We go uphill for a little while. After a little while, we've been going flat for quite some time. It hasn't really gone up anymore. And I start thinking, I should really be going up. We've been walking for a long time. So we get to a clearing, and I kind of try to get us take of our surroundings, see where we are. And again, I don't know if you guys will know this unless you know exactly where these things are, but I look across the road, and I can see I am parallel with those like wind turbines that are like that are over by Marshall Mesa. If you don't know, that is miles from Bear Peak. That is so far past where we're supposed to be. And so I see these pinwheels, and my heart drops out of my chest because I'm going, oh my God, we're not just miles from Bear Peak. That would be that just getting to Bear Peak would be a bad spot because we still got to get back to our car. We are so far off course. Our water is gone. And in that moment, I was like, how did we get this far away? We obviously made it back, but I sat there going, gosh, how in the world did we get this lost? How did we get here? And I wonder, I don't know if you guys have ever actually like had a spot where it's like, yeah, I got lost in a hike, or you were driving somewhere and you got to do physically lost, and you're going, how did we get here? But more importantly than that, man, I think about, the how many of us have sat there going, how did my life get here? When I look at my relationships, when I look at who I am, when I look at how I'm known, how many of us are going, I feel like I am miles from where I thought I would be. I feel like I am so off course. I have drifted so far from where I thought I was going to be. That's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to look at. The next question is why do we start to drift? Why do we get off course? And this is where I want to jump into what the Bible says around this, because I think it's really, really helpful. If you're not familiar with the Bible, if you're not familiar how it works, or if you've never read any of it before, what I want to look at is a chapter in the book of Acts. Acts kind of happens after the life of Jesus, and there's a character in it that Acts talks about a lot of things, but there's one character talks a lot about, and that is Paul. And if you don't know Paul is a guy that I gravitate to a ton. When I read Scripture, he is a character that means a lot to me, because Paul was somebody that thought Christianity was so stupid. And he spent his life murdering, capturing, and imprisoning people that said they were Christians. Now, I wasn't that intense, but I told you guys, I didn't grow up with any kind of church background. I didn't grow up going to a high school group or anything like that. I just had my idea that I thought Christians were really, really stupid. But similar to Paul eventually, if you read his story, he has an encounter with God. He has an encounter with him, and something about it is so powerful that it changes his life. And he goes on to write a quarter of the New Testament and to be one of the most influential writers that sort of shows us how we can walk this life of faith. So for me, when I read about Paul, there's parts of his life that I relate a lot to, because for me, I got to have an encounter with God that changed what my life looked like. So when I read about him, I feel like I'm reading about anyway. So what I want to look at, again, if you want to read this chapter on your own, we're going to be jumping around through it. It's Acts chapter 27. At this point, what's happening is Paul is on a boat, and they're headed to an island in the Mediterranean. And we'll just pick it up from here. It says this. It says this in. Oh, here we go. We got it up here. So it says, so Paul began to strongly warn the rest of the people on the boat, saying, "Men, I sense after careful thought and observation that this voyage will certainly be disaster and with great loss, not only to the cargo of the ship, but also to our lives." Paul's thinking about this journey they're about to go on, and there's just something in his head that's going, I sense there's not something good here. I sense this isn't the right decision. And I wonder if you guys have ever been in those moments where you're going, I'm not sure about this. When I was on that hike, when we got to that fork in the road where it went down and then one hill went up, in the downhill part, there was probably 50 yards away, there was a little signpost. And I thought, I should probably go down there and see what the sign says. But I don't know. It sucks when you go down there, and I'm sure it would say the trail is that one up there, and then I have to backtrack. So I didn't go down there. But there was this little piece that was going, oh, God, I hope this isn't wrong, because we don't have any water, and I don't know where I'm going. If you guys ever had that, this is probably not my smartest choice, but whatever. It's not going to be that bad. Or is it probably not exactly what I should be doing right now? It's probably not exactly who I should be hanging out with, but, YOLO, whatever. It doesn't matter. So you have those little moments that are but then here's the next part I want you guys to see. Next part of the scripture, it says this. It says, but the officer, the guy in charge of the boat, was persuaded more by the ship's helmsman and captain than he was by Paul, so the majority decided to put out to sea. What I hear in this is what he's saying is, this guy listened to Paul. This guy listened to that voice of going, this might not be the best choice, but he was persuaded more. He listened more to something else. He listened more to someone else. And when we talk about how is it that we start to drift, I think one of the big things is, the question is, what are we listening to more? It's not a matter that I think anybody's making intentionally stupid decisions that get them off track or anything like that, but it's saying, what are we filling our minds with? What is capturing our attention more. Who is that person? Who is that person that's like, gosh, every time we get together, we end up doing stupid stuff that I'm like, I know I probably shouldn't be doing this, but here I am again. Or where is that place? Where's that house that every time you go there, it's like, this is probably not the best decision I can make, but oops. Yeah, I don't know. What is that thing? What is that app? What is that website that's like, I guess I'm gonna. I probably this is probably my best source, but I'm gonna lean into that more. Maybe it's our grade point average. Maybe it's the way we look. What are the things in your life that get the most of your attention? What are the things for you that you are persuaded by the most? And I think I think that's one of the reasons we start drifting. And then the question I want to ask you guys is, what happens when we start to drift? Here's what's weird about this. Here's what's weird. The next part of this story, if it keeps going, just track with me here, keeps going. It says this: when a gentle south breeze began to blow, they assumed they could make it. There's a small wind. It doesn't seem bad at all. And they're going to be like, we are going to be fine. I don't know if you guys have actually ever been sailing or been on the water. A small breeze is awesome. It's a hot day, cool you off, and it gives you a little bit of control of your sails. It's not something you can't control. It actually helps you move forward. It's great. Seems like it's a great thing. And some of the things that are dominating our attention, some of the things that we're listening to more, that we're being persuaded by more, they're not bad things. I'd say, I use the example grade point average. Studying hard and doing well in school, that's not a bad thing. You should do that. But what happens when a grade point average all of a sudden becomes terrible anxiety about how, what if I don't do well on this test? Now I'm not sleeping at night because I'm so stressed out. I didn't do as well as I wanted to, and now I can't stand myself because I didn't perform to the level that I thought I could. There's nothing wrong with being confident in who you are, with feeling good about yourself and how you look. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens when the time you spend getting ready, the time you spend in front of a mirror, the amount of time you compare yourself to that other person that looks a certain way, that not only that, but the clothes you start to wear, you start wearing them just so you can be noticed. The actions you start doing are just so your body can get attention. And all of a sudden, being confident in yourself has drifted into something that now feels like a constant, like, if I don't keep up with this, then I'm going to get ignored, and then I'm insecure, and I don't feel good anymore. And we're so far off of what initially was the case. There's nothing wrong with getting good grades, but when we can't sleep at night, it feels off course. There's nothing wrong. I mean, for me, this would be stupid, but like, I'll find myself, there's nothing wrong with TikTok. I think it's actually a hilarious platform with lots of creative stuff on it. And yet, sometimes TikTok will throw me something. Some video that I don't know, like, what is this? This is stupid, but maybe I'm just curious to see what they're doing. And then all of a sudden, now I'm watching it again. And now I'm looking up things that are related to it that are getting me looking at stuff, and I'm going, what am I doing looking at this? And now I'm veering away. I'm drifting away from where I want to be. The problem when you see a gentle breeze blow up is we don't see the danger coming in it. The problem with a small drift, a little thing, like, it's probably not a big deal, is we don't see the danger that comes with it. I don't think that anybody on a Friday night decided, you know what, I think I want to make a terrible decision that's going to haunt me for the next few years. Nobody thought that. They thought, you know what, it's one drink. We're having a great conversation. Let's see where this goes. It's probably should turn in now, but whatever. Or, I'm bored. I just want to entertain myself. It's a small decision. It's not even necessarily that bad. But it's because we don't see the danger coming, and all of a sudden we can find ourselves miles from where we thought we'd be. All of a sudden we can find ourselves with a reputation we never wanted to have, addicted to something we never meant to be addicted to. Seeing ourselves in a negative light that we never wanted to hold, being scared that people will find out something that you never wanted them to know. Now, at this point, I think what's really important, maybe the most important thing I can say tonight is this, is if you are somebody that's finding yourself in the middle of one of these storms, if you feel like I am in a storm and I have made decisions, or I have drifted away, or I've made decisions, or I've done things that have put me in a spot where now I am carrying shame, I am carrying fear, I just wish that I wasn't here. What you got to hear is this, is that God is right there with you in the storm. This is not one of those things where you got to fix everything, you got to make it right, or you're screwed. God is right there with you in the storm. We'll jump back into our Acts chapter here. What happens is these guys, they get caught in this storm. I'll tell you. So after the gentle breeze, it goes on to say this: it wasn't long before the weather abruptly worsened, and a storm like a hurricane with hurricane force called the nor'easter tore across the island and blew us out to sea. The sailors weren't able to turn the ship into the wind, so they gave up and let it be driven by the gales. How many of us feel like we cannot turn the ship around and we have just given up, or we're just about to give up and just whatever, it can go whatever way it wants? How many of you know somebody who's given up? That's where you got to know right now, if that's you, if that's someone you know, God is right there in the winds with you. He's right there in the storm with you, and he is saying, hey, I'm right here. It goes on to say these guys try to figure it out. They try to hold on and steer the ship back, and it doesn't work. And 2 weeks go on. They're trying to figure this out. They think they're going to die. They think they can wait it out. It doesn't get better. They try to fix things. It doesn't get better. How many of you guys have thought, if I just hold on a little longer, it might get better? If I try to fix things, it actually just got worse. And then finally it says this, that the ship wrecks. The ship fully wrecks, but it goes on to say this: the rest, the crew, managed to survive by clinging to planks and broken pieces of the ship, so that everybody scrambled to the shore uninjured. Everybody survived because they grabbed onto broken pieces. So like I said, if your life right now is sitting in a storm, you got to know that you can grab onto a broken piece. It doesn't have to be anything huge. God is right there, and if you want to grab a small piece, even if it's just the promise, even if it's just the reminder that, oh, God's here with me, God loves me, God sees me as something more than this, that's a broken piece. It doesn't have to be a full, like, okay, now I'm fully, like, some of you guys might be saying, yeah, I really want to dive in. Jesus is something that I really want to press into. Some of you guys, though, might be going, I don't know, but I need a little piece to help me start to float back towards safety. That small piece might be your small group. Maybe tonight's the night where you let them know about the storm that you are going through, and that's just a broken piece that they can know and carry and encourage you through this. Maybe it's talking to your leader about this afterwards. Maybe it's asking God for the first time, God, I need help. It can be a small and broken thing that starts to float us back towards safety. So my question to you guys is this: where are you right now? Do you feel like your life is in a storm? Do you feel like there is stuff thundering around you and you don't know how to get out? Do you feel like you're actually finally starting to float back? That you've been in a storm and there's a party that's grabbed a small piece and you're starting to move back? Or maybe you're on the other side where you're just starting to drift. And you think about it, you're going, gosh, I feel like I'm a little off course from where I thought I'd be. I'm a little off course from who I thought I'd be, and I'm drifting a little bit. I'm going to ask the band to come up here. We're going to worship for a couple songs here. And here's what I want to invite you guys to do. Underneath your seats is there's a little Post-it note there. And what I want to invite you to do, if you want to, you don't have to do this, but if you want to do this, I think one of the most powerful things we can do is start to name and know the things that cause us to drift. To name and know the things that cause us to drift. And what I want to invite you guys to do is, while we're worshiping, while the band plays this first song, I want you to take a second and think, what is that thing that's causing you to drift? Who is that person? What's that group? Where's that place? Where's that thing? What's that site? Whatever it is. What's that thing that causes you to drift? And for me, and then what I want you to do while we're playing the song, if you want, is to take that poster and I want you to stick it on this board here. And I heard a sermon about this that's sticking with me. It talked about that we can declare, we can see these things that cause us drift and say them. No, I'm not going to drift from this anymore. I am not drifting any longer. You don't have to sign this. Someone's going to look at like what you wrote. But I think it'd be powerful to name the thing that has made you drift. And then to stick it on there, and then maybe a simple prayer. So you go back to your seat, you say, God, no more drifting. No more of that. For me, I told you guys, I mean, you can make like folders on your phone. I took I made a folder and I named it No Drift, and I put Instagram and TikTok into that. So it said every time I go into that, I think, no drifting this time. But what is the thing that causes you to drift? Like I said, take some time, think about that. I'd love to invite you to write that there. You can stick it on the board. Declare that we're not going to drift in that anymore. And then we're going to go into small groups after we worship, and we'll get us chances to hang out there. And I hope you guys get a chance to connect there. But first, let's worship together, and we'll get into it.